take the Mahabharata and to analyze the world today and India's problems through the eyes of the Mahabharata. So when I published my first book, which was in 2020, in fact, the reader feedback jo milta hai, I found most people related most warmly to the Mahabharata chapter. Then the book got translated into different languages. One of them, by the way, was Marathi. So I was at the release of my Marathi edition. It happened to be in Pune. And somebody asked me, saying, "Aapne Mahabharat to kiya hai? Have you ever thought about Ramayana?" So it was partly idea to me, partly challenge bhi tha. So I felt, okay, let me now apply myself to the idea of looking at the world through Ramayana. And that actually has been the driving force of my second book, which I brought out in January this year. It is called Why Bharat Matters. And in many ways, it is actually about Bharat, which is becoming a Vishbandhu. Now, what is the, I would say, relevance of Prabhu Shri Ram and Vishbandhu? Think about it. आप सब लोग रामायण से तो परिचित हैं. You know, the first time Ram and Lakshman are taken to the forest when they are still very young by Vishwamitra, because the Rakshas are disturbing the prayers of the sages in the forest. It is a global duty. Okay? They have no interest of their own. They are doing it because there is a responsibility, there is an expectation, there is a sense of duty, there is an obligation that if you are from a ruling, if you have your princess, you are sons of Dashrath, it is your obligation to actually ensure that there is goodness and well-being and that the right people are allowed to do the right thing without disturbance. And they made actually, because their father was very nervous about sending them out because they are taking on a big challenge. Now, once Prabhu Shri Ram gets his reputation, many other things happen because you referred to Jatayu. Actually, look at what happens when they move towards Lanka. Why does somebody like Jatayu sacrifice his life for Prabhu Shri Ram? Because when a person gets a good reputation, when the world believes that they do the right thing, that they will give their everything for the world also reciprocates it. Similarly, just think that the group, very complex group of people, today we will call it like a coalition, or you can say alliance, that usme Sugriv bhi the, Hanuman bhi the, Angad bhi the, you actually, jab Vibhishan aaye, he also, see again, people join when you have a good reputation. Why does Vibhishan leave Ravan, his brother, and come to the Sharan of Lord Ram? Because he wants to be on the side of the good and the right. Similarly, when you put together all these people who actually literally give their lives for Sri Ram. I am mentioning all of this to you because often when we talk about foreign policy, we talk about politics, तो लोगों के मन में लगता है, it's like a strategy, which it is, it is a kind of politics. There is लोगों का स्वार्थ भी होता है, लोगों का हित भी होता है, but somewhere in all of this, to be good, to be righteous, to be helpful, to be contributing, to have a reputation, जब दुनिया आपकी कदर करती है, there is a lot of benefits which happen. So when we say today that we want Bharat to be Vishbandhu Bharat, let me tell you, a lot of thought has gone into it. It is actually the experience of 5,000 years of India, that when we say Vasudhaiva Kutumbakam, a Bharat which is willing to do things for the world, a Bharat which then gets that reputation, a leader who personifies it on the international stage. I can tell you, there is nothing like having, whether it's in our personal life, I would say whether it is even in our politics at home. If you have a good name, nothing is more valuable than having a good name, and the kind of support and the feelings that you evoke, they actually stand our country in very good stead. Now I will actually come to what I was going to tell you. Let's start with the world. The world actually today is in a very uncertain, turbulent, difficult situation. And you are all seeing it. Any report you see in social media, TV में देखें, newspaper में देखें, what do you read about? Russia, Ukraine, war चल रहा वहाँ, Israel, Gaza, things are happening, war, conflict is going on. Red Sea, Arabian Sea में you can see drones, missiles are being fired. कहीं आतंकवाद है within in Asia, there is South China Sea में tension है. On our borders there is a attempt to pressurize us. So you can, even economically, if you see, a lot of the world even now has not recovered from COVID. So uska bhi boj hai. So generally speaking, the world actually is a very tough place today. But it is also a place for great opportunities. Because for a country like India, which is growing fast, which has done many of the reforms, which is getting ready to make big moves, that, when हम लोग जब विकसित भारत की बात करते हैं, we are today 3.7, 3.8 trillion dollar economy. We will, next few years will be $5 trillion. By the time we finish with Amrit Kal, will be a $30 trillion economy, and Goldman Sachs says Goldman Sachs says that we will actually be a $52.5 trillion economy by the time we hit the 2070s. So I will say something. We will hit the 50 trillion mark, and many of you in the room, most of you in the room, will be younger than I am today. Think of it. You are going to see an India which will change, which will progress in a way in which, living generations, multiple, would not have, forget experience, would not have even actually thought about, because we've entered that kind of trajectory. Now, I'm not saying it is inevitable, autopilot में होगा, मेहनत करनी होगी, we have to make the right decisions, आपको ठीक बटन भी दबाना होगा. But if all of you do the right thing, it is very clear. And this is not a, I would say, like a, some kind of, I would say, propaganda of people in politics. I mean, there are very serious studies which actually say how India is going to grow in the next 30 to 40 years. Now, when I say there are opportunities, why is it important we look at the world? Because at this stage of our growth, we still need resources. And resources means financial resources, but it also means natural resources. That if you look today, from metals and minerals and oil and lithium and, there is so much that we will need. In fact, for us, the big resource producing countries actually have a very special value. There is a big debate about our buying oil from Russia. That debate started because people were trying to pressurize us not to do it, and we held our position. But I want you to understand actually what is today the importance of our relationship with Russia. There was a time, and this was the period where I have spent in the foreign service, where हम लोग जो हैं, we used to buy weapons from Russia, we still do some, and nuclear में कुछ था, कुछ space में था. But today you have to understand, Russia has become a big natural resource provider for India. We used to have trade. Our trade levels were $10 to $15 billion annually. Today we are crossing 60, maybe $70 billion with Russia. Why? Because it's not only oil. It is oil, it's high quality coal, it is metals of various kinds, it is fertilizers. So India today actually has become a big consumer of resources. That is fueling our, when we say we are the fastest growing large economy in the world, you need something to drive that movement. And that movement is resources of various kinds. It also means capital. It means foreign direct investment inflow. But we need resources. Number two, we need technology. We need technology because, after colonial period, we had to rebuild our economy. But whatever we did not, in different areas, kahin na kahin kuch kami reh gayi thi. So, and one, I would say, big gap was that the kind of push we should have made in manufacturing, that push was not there. And without manufacturing, you cannot have technology. You can have other people's technology. You cannot have your own technology. So even today, there's a big debate going on in the world. कुछ लोग कहते हैं कि हमें services में focus करना चाहिए. Yes, services is very good. But services does not give that kind of employment. It does not give us that kind of capability. It does not give you most of all the technology by which you will leapfrog, you will go faster, you will catch up. कि जो वो 20-30 साल की जो gap जो है, with often in different sectors with other parts of the world, with the developed world. It is only by having our technology that we can close that gap. And to do that, you get technology by working with others in different fields. So we need technology. We also need best practices. And we have to be very open-minded about it. Because nobody gets things perfectly by themselves. कहीं ना कहीं हम बाहर जाते हैं, दूसरों को देखते हैं, we look, अच्छा, this is how they do it. Maybe it will not be 100% fit for us. But some part of it would apply to us also. I give you one example which directly impacts this city. And in fact, which Piyush Goyal ji and I worked on. Some years ago, we decided that we will actually work with Japan on bullet train. Okay? Now, I have to tell you really how much of how much change a bullet train project can bring. लोगों को लगता है bullet train क्या है? Train ही है. It will go a little bit faster. तो क्या बड़ी बात है? Actually, what a bullet train does is, it reduces the distance so much that somebody living 150 kilometers away from Mumbai can come into Bandra Kurla complex in 20 minutes. आप इसका अब रियल एस्टेट सोचिए, हाउसिंग सोचिए, डीकंजेशन सोचिए. see how urbanization will spread. So, now when we started this project, there was a debate. People said, "Kyun kar rahe hain? We are happy without it." Now, interestingly, I was also in Japan when the first metro came. Atal ji ki sarkar thi. At that time also people said, "Metro की क्या जरूरत है? अब आप सब मुंबई वाले हैं, अब मुझे बताइए मेट्रो की जरूरत है या नहीं?" अगर उस समय अटल जी की सरकार वो निर्णय नहीं लेती, I mean, can you imagine the clogging in our streets today in big cities? So, I mention bullet train because it's not for us on our own to start and say, "Bhai, aaj hum bullet train banayenge, chaliye dekhte hain kya technology hai." It will take us a long time. If you collaborate with someone, it will move very much faster. But if you are smart, आप collaborate भी करोगे, absorb भी करोगे, innovate भी करोगे, and in due course, which I am convinced will happen. Because again, one of the big changes, which again many of you would have experienced, is how Vande Bharat train has come about. I mean, see the difference it has made. So, for us today, resources, technology, best practices, these are many of the opportunities that the world offers. But there is one thing more, and that is security, that is influence. Because दुनिया में करीब 200 देश, roughly 193, 193 are members of UN, 2-3 हैं जो UN के सदस्य नहीं है. Now, world is competitive. That ये 200 जो हैं, they are all the time competing with each other. Even friends compete with friends. And those who are not friends compete not always in a fair way. Now, in a very competitive world, I mean, in a way, you can say it a little bit like a classroom or or any I would say any workplace. The more relationships and friends you have, the less problems you have, the better off you are. And particularly when it comes to issues like security. So, if you have, for example, say a situation like terrorism. Okay. आप सब लोग जानते हैं when 26/11 happened, it happened here. What our response was, or to be very frank, what our non-response was. Okay? But you also know that our response was very different in Uri and Balakot. And there was a reason. Because Uri was across the line of control and Balakot was across the international boundary. So the message was, if you come and do something here, you may be across line of control, you may be across international boundary, we will still come and get you there. Now, I want you to think for a moment about the reaction of the world. जब 26/11 हुआ, everybody said, yes, very bad, we sympathize with you. But they said, भाई, बर्दाश्त कर लेना. Don't do, tension नहीं करो पाकिस्तान के साथ. Because we had not lobbied the world, we had not made the world understand that ये terrorism है क्या, ये सबके लिए खतरा है. आज मेरी बारी है, कल आपकी बारी होगी. By the time from 2008, we had reached 2016. Actually, we did Uri. And world said, yeah, the Indians did what the Indians had to do. We did Balakot. Why was it that the world was understanding about Uri and Balakot? but the world was so tense, or I would say indifferent on, where 26, because 26/11, a lot of people sympathized with us, but stopped there. And the reason is because we had not made that effort to delegitimize terrorism, to convince the world. So when I say that in the world, jab Vishbandhu hona, if you can carry the rest of the world with your viewpoint, you are that much stronger. You have that ability to pursue your interests. So sometimes people ask me, अच्छा तो थोड़ा हमें समझाइए कि आप दुनिया में कर क्या रहे हो, ये विश्वबंधु की बात करते हैं. I tell them I give you a very clear domestic example. Vishbandhu Bharat is on the international scene. What Sabka Saath, Sabka Vikas is at home. It's clear. You carry, अगर आपको चेंज करवाना है, आपको अपने हित आगे बढ़ाने हैं, दूसरों को भी साथ ले जाइए, but you create this sense that I am not here only for my swarth. I am here for the collective good of everybody, and if we do that, हमारा भी भला होगा, and let me tell you, everybody will go along with you in that journey. And this, when people sometimes ask me, because वो देखते हैं कि अच्छा मोदी जी वहाँ गए, ये अग्रीमेंट हुआ, वो घटना हुई. If you ask me in 10 years, please sum up 10 साल में विदेश नीति में आपकी क्या उपलब्धियां हैं, I would say the biggest is we get not only more respect, we also get much more understanding today. That people feel, yes, India is got a point. Yes, this is their right. So that is in a sense what Vishbandhu Bharat is about. Now I want very quickly, because I also want to listen to you and to respond to you, I want to give some practical example. माने ground में होता क्या है? And let me start actually with this war going on between Russia and Ukraine. So you would have all heard different stories, क्या हुआ, कैसे हुआ, really हुआ, नहीं हुआ. So I want to tell you, and I am saying this as a person who is in the room, who is generally sitting in these conversations one seat behind Pradhan Mantri ji. When we had, the fighting started, there were roughly 22,000 students थे, 2,000 निकल चुके थे तब तक. So there were 20,000 roughly students. And the students were actually located in the place where the fighting was most severe, many of them. Now, you have to understand, युद्ध भी हो रहा है वहाँ, you have to persuade the country, you have to tell Ukraine कि भाई, you may be fighting, but please give the support and facility for my students to come out. Please understand how difficult it is. The second part, if the students get out, there are 5 neighboring countries of Ukraine. उन पे भी pressure है. Refugees का pressure है. Ukrainian citizens are leaving. Every border checkpoint is choked with people. खाने की दिक्कत है, ठंड की problem है. Now, you have to persuade 5 countries along the borders of Ukraine. Please welcome and look after and prioritize the welfare of the Indians who will come out. I'm still doing the easy part. I'm not come to the difficult part yet. Then, students, when they come out, you have to actually get them to open up their airfields and allow your planes to land. And in some cases, like Romania, actually the airfields, they had not even been using it. So ye band pade the. You actually had to go and tell them, bhai, mere liye please open that airfield. Now, think of the complexity of this. And I'll now tell you the difficult part. Two countries are fighting with each other. How do you get them to say, I have a concern, please respect that concern and find me a way by which my people are able to come out safely. Now many people have asked me, and आपके मन में भी ये प्रश्न होगा, what actually happened? And I can give you the two examples which is being debated. युद्ध रोका, कैसे रोका, कितने समय के लिए रोका, कहाँ रोका. One was where our students were leaving one city called Kharkiv, and they were going to one designated एक safe zone था, which was agreed to with the Russians. That if you go to that zone, that will be like collection point. उनको पैदल जाना था. It's about, I think it was about 20 kilometers outside the city. And we had said we will send buses out there to pick them up. But when they were preparing to go, there was some misunderstanding. And actually the Russians started firing at that zone area. And that was the first occasion when Modi ji actually spoke to Putin. And as I said, I was sitting with him when this happened. And he told him, saying that, look, we have an agreement, we are supposed to go to that zone, people are firing. And in fairness, Putin took it seriously and the firing stopped after a little gap, few hours. And then our students actually went there, then they were picked up by the buses and taken back. The second one was really a problem, and that is the one which is more debated. Because this time it was few weeks later, students were much more tense because they had seen continuous firing now for a few weeks. And they were sitting, there was lack of food, there was water problem out there. And more than that, there was like a feeling, because most of the other cities, people had come out. Inko laga ki somewhere we have been left behind. Now, with that tension, we were talking to them every day, like counseling, keep your morale, don't worry, we are there, we are looking at you. So we had made all the arrangements, and we had talked to the Russians, we had talked to the Ukrainians. बीच में वहाँ एक प्राइवेट आर्मी जैसे कुछ थी, उनके साथ भी negotiate करना पड़ा. And we actually got the buses there. And students came out of their hostel. Some of them sat in the bus when the firing started. And everybody naturally left and went inside. Then the students said, "Nahi, ab to we don't trust, ab kaise nikle? I mean, we had such a bad experience." So our real problem was now to give them the confidence. Ki bhai, aap niklo, we are there, we will guarantee ye ho jayega. And the only way we could do this was, we told them, saying, look, we will send somebody from India. Hum aayenge, we will be there for you. Bharosa kariye. Now, we actually sent two very senior officers from Delhi who went all the way to that place where the fighting was going on, so that they could come with the students, and the students saw them and unko laga ki, yes, because if you can come from Delhi, that means the way back is also safe. But the way back was not safe. Now, this was actually जो युद्ध विराम जिसकी बात कर रहे हैं कि fighting रुकवाया था. We had to chart out a path and then ensure in that pathway till the last bus, from the first bus till the last bus, there will be no firing. And for this purpose, actually, Prime Minister spoke to both President Putin and to President Zelensky. Then he told them, saying that, my foreign minister, other people will be following up on this. So we had to work out a very, very detailed, not just a युद्ध विराम. We actually had to clear a path. कि ये इस रास्ते पे अगर आओगे, this is agreed between all parties. And actually that is how they came out. Now I mentioned this episode to you and connect it with Vishbandhu. देखिए, in the middle of fighting, if we can have this friendship and credibility and relationship, that people are willing to go the extra mile. Because think about it, those presidents are, वो भी व्यस्त थे. I mean, they had other concerns. But if they take your phone call, if they say, yes, अच्छा चलो मोदी जी का request है, we have to respond to it, they give the orders, that is respected. Now please understand, why having that relationship, having this image, having that respect, how it actually helps our people when they are stuck. I'll give you a very different example. COVID. You know, during COVID, everybody, सबकी अपनी अपनी challenges थी. Now, with where the Americans were concerned, they actually had at one time big problem about medicines, and sometimes not even very complex medicines. Today it looks very, it looks very laughable. At that time, paracetamol की कमी थी दुनिया में. That there were countries, ministers, prime ministers who would ring up and say that, मेरा ये list है, please मेरा prioritize करा दो. Now, what we did was, we actually, massively increased our medicine production. Now, because we supplied to many other countries, when we got into problems, as I said, see, you have to, Jatayu will stand by you. I would say the Vanar Sena will support you, because they feel that you are worthy of it, that आपने कुछ किया है, ये आपकी reputation. So similarly at that time, we used to have big problems to get the supply chain of the vaccines, because roughly to make a vaccine, you can invent a vaccine in India, but अगर उसकी जो ingredients जो हैं, they come from 20-30 different countries, and the country which had like a control over it was America, because many of them बनता था Italy में, but it would be an American company. Yeah, it would be made in Sweden, but it would be an American company. So what we saw, whether it was the ingredients for the vaccine or during Delta wave, in Delta wave, we had such a tremendous shortage of oxygen. In fact, when I think of the various really major contributions of Piyush Goyal ji, I would say what he did during that oxygen, gathering oxygen around the country. Because you people would not have seen this. Oxygen cylinder में आते थे in a railgadi. To quickly refill it, we would actually take it back on a plane. Take it back to the place. Get it refilled and brought back. So actually entire Indian Air Force was at it, entire Indian Railways was at it. All the big industrial plants of India actually were busy producing medical oxygen at that time. But we got a lot of support from outside. And in fact, Gulf countries, many Gulf countries, because during COVID, we kept them supplied with food. They actually never sent back Indian labor and Indian community from the Gulf. In fact, they in many ways prioritized them, they looked after them, and they were also big suppliers of medical oxygen to us. So, I'm giving you very concrete examples that if you have the relationship, you can even get a break in the fighting between two countries. If you have the relationship in the middle of something as severe as COVID, people would say, ठीक है, मेरे लिए उन्होंने कुछ किया था, I must also repay them in kind. Now, in some ways today, that same problem we are facing where Israel and, this Gaza issue is concerned. Because if you look at this issue, it's actually a very, very complex issue. Because you look at it, जो घटना जो October 7th को जो हुई, no question, it was terrorism. We were very clear on the first day that it is terrorism, we will call it out. I think there were some other political views here in this country who did not have the same clarity and the same conviction. But once you are clear about the fact it's terrorism, and then Israel takes action, there are other issues which are there. How to take care of the civilians. Then there is an issue कि Palestine state होना चाहिए, नहीं होना चाहिए, two-state solution ठीक है या नहीं है. Then we saw, there was a problem between Israel and Iran. Now, even today, we had an episode that there was a ship, we've had a ship which was taken over by the Iranians, which had Indian crew. Ship किसी और की थी, flag किसी और का था. But the crew was brought to Iran. Now, because the crew was Indian, we have the relationship with Iran, saying, look, there was one woman training cadet out there were other crew members. So whoever, actually once we told the Iranians, bhai hamare log, and we have that relationship with Iran. And people feel that our position is fair. Okay, we are condemning terrorism. But we believe eventually that there has to be some kind of negotiated solution for that, in which there has to be some solution for the Palestinians also. So, because our position is seen today as fair and balanced, you actually get that kind of support that I talk about. So, finally, let me give you the example actually of something which is very interesting happening, because I had spoken to you about how we have got the world together on terrorism. Today, one very big issue is connectivity. Connectivity, because as India becomes more economically important, the rest of the world wants some smooth path to India. To have connectivity, you have to carry everybody with you. So we have to have our Vanar Sena also. And not only one, in different directions. We have to have people who will stand with us, work with us, and who feel that, this is something which is worthwhile investing. So if you see in the last few years, we have today, some of you would have seen, we have actually signed an important agreement with Iran on Chabahar port. So there is actually a connectivity through Iran, Central Asia, Russia, going that way. We signed during G20 a connectivity through Saudi Arabia, UAE, Saudi Arabia, going to Europe. We actually are working on one connectivity in the east, from northeast all the way to Vietnam. Now, you can only do this connectivity if you are able to carry other countries with you and persuade them that this is not only India's interest, but it is something which is common for all of us. So, I come back to this point. A Vishbandhu is a country which is regarded with respect, which is seen as contributing, which is not only working for itself, वो तो सब लोग करते हैं, which is doing something more than that. As I said, even today, the vaccine ke samay mein, that vaccine Maitri, when we did vaccines for 100 countries, you go to any of those 100 countries, public, somebody who has no idea कि कोई official position नहीं होगा. वहाँ के, my own experience, I went to one country in South America, the Dominican Republic. वहाँ के रेडी वाले जो हैं, they came and told me that, we got vaccines from you people. So, helping the world, doing your role, And for this, we actually need today a strong government. We need a understanding. Dunya ki samajh honi chahiye. We need to have that confidence, that vishwas, that samarthya about how to handle the world. And you all saw that when a country like that, a Vishbandhu type country, takes over the presidency of G20, nobody expected, I'll be very honest with you, nobody expected that we will be able to get everybody to agree to a common position in G20. Nobody expected. So, therefore, I come back to where I started. I think we are today in a very good position. 10 years of very good governance, very strong leadership has created today the foundation. We now have to see how we take this forward in that next 25 years. That is something which all of you need to apply yourself to. And for you, the task begins by pressing the button.